Busy news morning across Kansas City, flooding all over town after upwards of 8 inches of rain fell across the Kansas City metro. The Kansas City Fire Department has done upwards of 3 dozen rescues so far this morning, and I'm sure there's more to come. The mayor of Kansas City, Quinton, is here on KCMO. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us. What have you heard this morning from your first responders on what's going on around town?
You know, what we are hearing is some of the flooding in typical places. Many of you who have lived here for a while know where you tend to get high waters, and the need for more people, go out on your normal day. But if you see high waters, not trying to drive through. That's most of what our fire department has to deal with, people who believe that they can make it through high waters. Typically, you cannot. We've seen big vehicles get disabled within it, so we just hope people stay safe. While our fire department trains for these water rescues, we don't want to do that many, and certainly we don't want any drownings today based on the failure to heed warnings that I will say came out pretty clearly and loudly. You had your phones on different media platforms, and so hopefully people listen.
Yeah, hopefully. Do you know, staffing-wise, is the fire department at its normal staffing this morning? Do they have extra bodies and hands on deck to deal with what's going on around town today?
You know, as far as I'm aware, our fire department is on its normal staffing. Usually, unlike the police, the way the overtime system ends up working at KCFD, we are typically fully staffed in all of our stations. That doesn't mean we have enough firefighters. There's a lot of chat about that, too. But with the way that we've worked it out over the years at a decent cost to our taxpayers, we do have full staffing this morning. There is no extra. And right now, we're not seeing any reason to try to call out all hands on deck. I think our firefighters have been able to handle the calls as they've come in.
Mayor Lucas is here on KCMO Talk Radio. We appreciate his time as always. So I want to ask you, Mr. Mayor, about the letter that Frank White sent to Governor Mike Kehoe that came out this week in local media that suggested we extend the 3/8 cent sales tax for the Chiefs as 1/3 of that 3/8 of a cent, and then use the other monies for basically different public projects, including an upgrade to the downtown courthouse. The Royals were notably absent from Frank White's proposal. What is your thoughts and response to that letter that came out from Frank White?
With my greatest respect to everybody who's involved in the discussion, I think it's clear to anyone that letter is a non-starter. First, the source of the recipient of the letter, the governor, was an interesting person to target. Granted, while there needs to be a local match as determined by the Department of Economic Development in the state of Missouri, I think that would be a conversation about putting something on the ballot that does need to go through the Jackson County legislature. So it seemed like it was a non-starter. I'm not sure why the Chiefs would be particularly heartened by a reduction, actually, in current sales tax revenues. I think when you looked at the other two sources, in Kansas City, we have to fix up City Hall all the time. We do not have a sales tax to support it. I think those are buildings that you have to maintain. And Jackson County's courthouse has had issues for years, so you would hope that finds its way in the normal budget. Or, of course, the $75 million in excess funds that they continue to have from last year's discussion over ARPA. I think on the third tranche, Truman Medical Center, University Health, it's a wonderful resource. The city of Kansas City gives them an excess of about $20 million per year already. Voters are already helping to support them, and I don't think they necessarily asked for it. So it seemed as if, it was an interesting letter. There are a lot of other issues going on. This letter might have distracted from some of those, but I don't think it was a serious salvo in the resolving the stadium conversation. And then the exclusion of the Royals, whatever. I think it seems to speak for itself, and I think all parties will continue on their negotiation path as normal in some ways, moving on without that letter really being material to it.
Is it fair from your estimation that you think the Royals still need a local match involving the county to go downtown, or do you think there's a route for them without county involvement?
My answer to that question, do the Royals need a local match from Jackson County? The answer is no. I think that has been a discussion that we have had for some time. I'm sure it could always be additive and helpful. I mean, the way the stadiums are both set up now is that Jackson County sales taxes pay for almost all of the expenses. However, the city of Kansas City and the state of Missouri do contribute dollars annually. One model that has been discussed is kind of flipping that in the Royal situation, the city of Kansas City handling a lot of that cost, and then, of course, substantial contributions from the state of Missouri and maybe a smaller one from Jackson County. All that being said, I don't think Jackson County is imperative to effectuating a relationship as between the Royals and the city of Kansas City. I think that's been somewhat lost in the discussion, right? People kind of say, well, there's Clay County and Johnson County and maybe Jackson County in that discussion, but I see the entities somewhat differently. And I think if you're really laying out the discussion right now, it is Kansas City, is Clay County, of which Kansas City is actually the largest part. And then I think it's state of Kansas. If you look at who really seems to be leading a lot of those discussions, you don't necessarily have different mayors either in Wyandotte or Johnson County that are piping up and saying, hey, have us lead this chat. One is because in KCK, the mayor's leaving, and OP, the mayor's in a re-election race. But then up in Clay County, I think you largely see the commissioners as part of it. That's how it's laid out, but I think the Royals do get done without the Jackson County involvement, although certainly if they wish to be additive, they're always helpful.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Lucas joining us. So there's going to be some rally protesting going on today. The Good Trouble Lives On Day of Action is today, and it coincides with the 5th anniversary of John Lewis's death. He, of course, was a longtime advocate for voting rights and civil disobedience. Are you going to be partaking in one of these protests in Kansas City?
Happily. I wanted to invite you and all of your listeners to join us, Swope Park, this afternoon. Many of them may not make it all the time. But, the goal is to make sure people stay engaged and to make sure they stay involved in the body politic. There are swings in American politics. There are elections that may not go your way. But I think when you talk about standing up for things like rural Medicaid, where, by the way, I share the view of today, Senator Josh Hawley. Might have disagreed with the one of a few days ago when he voted for the bill, but I think Senator Hawley is someone I agree with, standing up for rural health care, wanting to increase investments. I think we have taken steps back recently. And I would also, I know you had Senator Marshall on who was talking about how it won't hurt rural health care. I encourage him to talk to his colleague, the senior senator from Missouri, about challenges to rural health care. I think no matter your issue, it's an important time to stand up for all of these items, and I hope that people come out and discuss it. And while chats on Jeffrey Epstein are certainly interesting and perplexing to me as well, I think getting back to the substance of the things we need to improve in American politics, the people we need to stand up for, is something that it's worth making a little good trouble all about.
So what's the purpose of the rally, though, today?
I think that you have different types of engagements. This one is probably to encourage people who are feeling disappointed, disaffected, any number of things to say, no, there's a strong group, there is strength in numbers, and frankly that there are a lot of people who care about making a difference on these sorts of things. And so that's why I think that it is important to encourage people to get out there. I was asked to take part by some people that I like, trust, and know. And so, I said this is the sort of thing I like to visit with. I like to encourage people, but I would say it's more encouragement. I don't see it as a denunciation of anyone necessarily, although maybe that will happen. I see it as more of a rally to get people together and say, let's keep fighting for our values, making sure our voices are heard.
Who asked you to partake today?
There are some folks with mainly Midtown Democratic organizations, other Democratic and progressive groups here in Kansas City, although at many of these events, I'll let you know, I do get a chance to bump into Republicans, or at least ones who claim to be, who are dissatisfied with current situations going on in our country.
Okay. All right. Well, so we're going to see you out there. You're going to be at the rally. Your presence, how big of a presence and a role do you really want to have? Is this kind of like, hey, I'm doing this as a favor, or is it like I'm going to lead this thing and I'm going to be the face of this thing in Kansas City? I just want to get a feel for it today.
I never pretend to take over the work that someone else has done. I was asked to take part. I'll plan to participate, but no, this is not, Quinton's big old rally, although, certainly I stand by a lot of the folks who are working hard to do it, but I'm not supplanting anyone else who I know did the organization. That often comes up sometimes in activist discussions. I'm not trying to steal anybody's shine.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Last thing, as we get a morning going today following the Senate deciding that they are going to pull money and claw money back from NPR and PBS, have you heard from our friends across the street there at KCUR yet about any big interviews? Have they reached out to you yet, or have you not heard from them this morning?
I have not heard from them. I do think, particularly in terms of their local news coverage, KCMO Talk Radio certainly is wonderful. And I think talking probably to more figures engaged in local discourse, Republicans and Democrats, than anyone else. And I commend you on that. The KCUR does produce a lot of news. I think that would be a loss for our region. Our friends at KCPBS, I know you're on sometimes there too. And Nick Haynes, I think, has probably the most objective discussion show in the city. And so, I hope that there are ways that they can manage through this, and maybe that is through support from viewers like you. But I've not heard from them yet. I don't think this is a positive step towards access to information in our country, but I've been disappointed before, and we'll just keep fighting back to try to see that there are ways to make sure that we continue to have those types of voices all around.
All right. Well, Mr. Mayor, we do appreciate the time. We thank you for it as always. And I guess we'll see you on the news tonight. Thanks so much.
We'll see you later.
All right. Have a great day. That is Quinton Lucas on KCMO Talk Radio.